Hello, and welcome to the Smart Injury Doctors Podcast, the injury market's top program for doctors, lawyers, and insurers who want to gain greater insight on how to improve patient recovery results and deliver better services in the U.S. injury market. Please welcome your host, Dr. Jeffrey Allen Kronk.
One of the things I want to talk about on this podcast is what I've learned, in working with doctors over the last 3 or 4 years. We have a program called the Smart Injury Doctors Program, and the thing that we want, the product of that program is a doctor that understands how to build a personal injury practice at will. They can build their practice however they want to. They understand the injuries, they understand how to image the injuries, they understand the documentation needs of the environment so the patient has access to any benefits they're entitled to, and they most importantly understand how to get the best results, physical recovery results with these patients. And so, we take these doctors and we teach, we bring them from the ground up. And some of them, when I say the ground up, some of them are already doing 80, 90 personal injury patients a month, 40, 50 personal injury patients a month, 10 to 20 personal injury patients a month, 0 to 5 personal injury patients a month. It's all over the board, right? But wherever they are, they can improve. And so one of the things I've noticed, and I've worked with a lot of doctors now, and I've done presentations for doctors and just, have really gotten a feel for things, is I've always said, look, in the Smart Injury Doctors Program, we're trying to get the doctor, we want to push the doctor to the front of a bell curve. Everybody's familiar with a bell curve. Every profession has a bell curve. Every subject has a bell curve, right? So what is that bell curve? Well, it's just a curve of competency, really. It's a curve of competency if you want to look at it. The people that are at the front of the bell curve are highly, highly competent. They're very good at what they do. People that are in the middle of the bell curve are average at what they do, and people on the back side of the bell curve are less than average. They're bad. They're incompetent. They're not as good. Every profession has this curve. You could take spinal surgeons, right? There's people at the front of the bell curve. There's people in the middle of the bell curve, and there's people at the back of the bell curve. So if you have 1,000 surgeons, not everybody is the best of the best. There's a bell curve. If you take chiropractors that treat injuries, there's a bell curve. And you actually place yourself in the bell curve. I know that when I started out and was looking to do injury work, I knew I was mediocre as a chiropractor. I knew I was average at best, but I didn't want to be average. I had really decided, I had done private practice. I starved to death for 2 years, worked in a private practice that was very busy, went out, took off on my own. And I starved to death. I think I made $5,000 my first year and $20,000 my second year. I starved to death. If I hadn't had a little bit of money saved up, and I had a wife that was working at the time, we would have died. I mean, it was minuscule existence. So I understand that existence, right? What I did is I hired a coach. The coach put me in a position where in the next year I was making more money than I ever dreamed of. But in order to do that, I had to get rid of a lot of bad habits. I had to get rid of a lot of stuff that I didn't even know I had. And it wasn't until I got a coach that I found out I had these things and they were holding me back, right? So if you want to get somewhere, you want to go somewhere, you want to improve, you got to give up some things, right? You want to go from, hey, I want to go from a $1 million practice to a $10 million practice. Trust me, in order to do that, you're going to have to give some things up. It might be time, it might be attitude, it might be an idea that you have, it might be marketing incapability that you have. You have to give it up, right? So one of the things I notice is that all doctors are on this curve, but one of the things I notice is like the people on the back of the curve. They're the ones that complain. They complain. They attack chiropractors. They're a chiropractor who attacks chiropractic. They attack they're the ones that basically are going to attack other chiropractors. My experience is they're on the back end of the bell curve in some area, right? Then you have the average, and that's the middle of the bell curve, right? That's the 50% middle. So if you take the 25% that are in the lowest 25% of the chiropractors, we'll say those are the bad chiropractors. If we take the 50% of the chiropractors, we'll put them in the average to mediocre. Right? And mediocre means the same thing as average. When I was average, I knew I was mediocre. I mean, I knew it. Nobody had to tell me. I knew I was mediocre, but I was making a lot of money. Like I was making more money than I ever dreamed of making, but I knew I was mediocre as a chiropractor. So money was not the thing that told me whether or not I was good at what I did, because I was already making a lot of money, right? You take the top 25%, that's the front of the bell curve. And really where you want to get in is the top 10, maybe even top 5, top 2% of everybody in your business, right? Look at a baseball player. Let's talk about, you want security. People always want to be secure. They make decisions because they're afraid they're going to lose something, like they might not be able to gain it back, and they want to be secure. And I understand. I have the same thing. If you're in the top 5%, you're in the top 2%, you have no fear. Because even if it all went away, you can put it all back together again, right? And that's the beauty of being in that top area. You take a baseball player, you take average, mediocre baseball player, dime a dozen. Now, not a dime a dozen at the pro level. They're all diamonds at the pro level. But if we were to say there's a bell curve in the pros, right? Bottom 25%, they're up and down and up and down and up and down. The average don't control their destiny. Now you get up into the top 2, top 5, top 10%, they control their destiny, right? There's no, if you want to look at Ohtani right now, those of you that don't know baseball, he plays for the Dodgers. He hits a lot of home runs. He signed a $700 million deal. All right. He can go wherever he wants to. He dictates the terms because he's already at the front of the bell curve, right? So what I've noticed, and I have people that come into my program, and as far as numbers wise, they're in the front of the bell curve, right? They're doing high numbers, but they also understand that they can always do better. So one of the things I've found is that the back end complains, the middle self-invalidates. They don't think that they're worthy of having what they want to have. And so they take themselves out of the lineup. They're nervous about going out to attorneys or being to presentations or not wanting to make a mistake, or they're uncertain about their documentation. Is it enough? Is it good enough? They're uncertain about their treatment. Is it enough? Is it good enough? Is it, they're constantly uncertain. And so therefore, they're even uncertain with decisions. They make decisions very, so they got to think about it. It takes a long time to make a decision. And I'm not saying, I was there. I know this area very well. I was there. They're constantly worried about money a lot of times. Constantly looking at what's the cost of this? What's the cost of that? If they go on vacation, what's the cost of it? How much is it going to cost me to get, if I leave my practice, how much is it going to cost me to put somebody in and this vacation? And oh my God, I'm just not doing it. They're not up in the front. And so if you're listening to this and you're placing yourself and saying, oh, that's me, fine. Doesn't matter, because you can change it, right? So the middle of the bell curve, they self-invalidate. And if you look at this, what it does is they take themselves out of competition for those that are at the front. Because those that are at the front, the average take themselves out through self-invalidation. That's their barrier to entry. They will self-invalidate, so they keep themselves away from the goods and the benefits and the gold that's at the front of the bell curve. The bad, they complain. They take themselves out because they're never going to put themselves in that position anyway. Right? They complain about everything. They complain about their compensation. They complain about working with bad attorneys. They complain about the fact that their patients are not good. They complain about the fact that they got sold a technique and it was a bill of goods. They complain. The others, well, I don't know enough. I'm not certain. I'm too busy. I've got all this stuff going on and I'm not certain of what to do. That's how they take themselves out. The best, if you say the best, they're in the top 25%. If you say the masters, they're in the top 5%, top 10%, top 2%. Okay, so what they do that's different is they train. They continue to find people that are better at whatever they want to know about. They're better than them, and they pay to train. What pulled me out of my practice was I hired a coach. I had to borrow the money. I had to borrow the money from my dad to hire a coach, to hire a consultant, right? Made 5,000 the first year, 20,000 the second year. I didn't have any money. You know, I was like, okay, you need $12,500 to do this program. I'm like, oh my God. Now, when is this? This is in 1992. This isn't in like 2024, right? So you can understand what would that 12,000 be like today? 25,000, 30,000? So think if somebody said to you, hey, I can help you, and it's $25,000 or $30,000. That's what I did, right? It was the best money I ever spent, right? Now, from that point on, I never went a year without a coach or a consultant. I just didn't. I continuously had consultants. So I always wanted to train. I always wanted to improve. And I'm big into that. So the people that really do well in this market continue to train because this market changes. I mean, the market changes a lot. The laws change, the rules change, your presentations change. What attorneys want changes. What medical doctors want changes. Now, it doesn't change a lot. There's basic foundation, and that's what we train in the Smart Injury Doctors program. We train a foundation, and the foundation is never going to change. The injuries themselves are not going to change. A fractured bone is always going to be a fractured bone, whether it's 2025 or it's 4025. It's still going to be a fractured bone. Now, how you assess it and how you heal it and what you do with it, yeah, those are going to change, right? There might be something better than X-ray. There might be something better than CT in the future. Okay, that's fine, but you still have to locate the fracture, and it's still going to be with some sort of imaging. You're still going to have to heal the fracture. The way they heal it may change. Okay, that's fine. You have to keep up with that aspect. But what I'm saying, the injuries themselves don't change. The injuries to the spine don't change. They've been the same injuries for 2,500 years. They've been the same injuries for 5,000 years. They're the same injuries. It's just nobody's taught them. Nobody's taught to simplify them. And nobody, once you understand just how simple these injuries are, then documentation becomes a hell of a lot simpler. Your ability to communicate to patients becomes a hell of a lot simpler. Your ability to communicate to attorneys becomes a hell of a lot simpler. Medical doctors, it doesn't matter. Hospital administrators, insurance adjusters, it's just people at a cocktail party. It doesn't matter, right? Your simplification and your understanding and your simple understanding of these injuries allows you to simplify your communication. And when you can simplify your communication, guess what? You're actually communicating because the other person on the other end understands what the hell you're saying, right? If they don't understand what the hell you're saying, you're not communicating. And you can go out, I see all the time with these doctors, like I was just looking at one on Facebook where, the doctor went out and they talked about impairment rating, and they talked about spinal instability and excessive motion testing, and they're way over communicating. They don't realize their audience, and they don't know what their audience's pain points are. Okay, so, if you don't know what your audience's pain points are, it's very difficult to fulfill those pain points so that they come and look and say, oh my God, nothing is worse to me. This is the worst thing. I have the hardest time with this in the industry is when chiropractors are you don't see medical doctors doing this as much. You see this in my profession, our profession, the chiropractors, going to lawyers and talking about how much they're going to increase claim value, how they're going to help the attorney increase claim value. I think there is not a worse way to approach an attorney. Here's what's different about what I teach doctors to do. I teach doctors to do a very simple presentation where the attorney goes, oh my God, this is going to help me with my settlement process. I'm going to get better settlements and they're going to resolve quicker. Now, did the doctor say that? No. Did the attorney get that? Yes. Now it's powerful. But when the doctor's going out saying, oh, we're going to document in such a way that we're going to get more increased claim value, the best way to get increased claim value is not to fix the patient. Because a patient that's broken and is unfixed and is going to stay that way for the rest of their life and is going to have a really crappy life has a lot of future need. You're going to get the highest claim value there is. But that's not your job. You might as well just send everybody to the back 25% of the bell curve. Because they'll screw up cases, definitely. I mean, personally, I think the back end of the bell curve, whether you're a surgeon, whether you're any kind of a doctor, puts people's lives at risk. People should, especially when they have injuries, 55% or more of the people that have a spinal injury, under the research that's there, this is not solid chiropractic research, this is medical research, are never going to fully recover. So choosing the right doctor for them is very important. But you also have to understand what it is that what is the value that you bring to the market? What is your unique selling proposition? What is it that differentiates you? If there is 40 guys in a bar and only one girl walks in the door, she got a lot of choices. So what's going to make you stand out? Now I could say the same thing, all right? If you're a guy, right, and you walk into a bar and there's 40 girls and no guys, girls, what is it that's going to make you stand out that makes that guy want to talk to you? Or girls, what is it, 40 guys, what is it going to, that's called differentiation. And can you differentiate quickly? Can you do something that gets somebody to say, that's different, that's unique, that's professional, that's something that that I can contribute to. That's what you're doing when you're going out and you're doing presentations. That's what you're doing when you're building your practice. That's what you're doing when you're communicating with your patients so your patients can communicate to other people, is you're differentiating what makes you unique. The average mediocre middle thinks everything's the same. They think everything's the same. Well, what am I going to do? If I determine the severity of an injury, how is it going to change my treatment plan? Are you kidding me? Like if you've ever asked that, and trust me, I've asked the question myself. So don't think I haven't gone through this myself or didn't have my moments where I said, well, I don't know, it seems like I'm doing the same thing no matter what. But that was when I was in the middle of the bell curve, right? When I get out front, it's all different. The injuries are the same. The people that have the injuries are all different, right? So, what I found, again, in the thing that makes it different, the people that really do well, the people that can go out, they can do it in a training presentation. They'll get 15, 20 referrals from a presentation. It's because they're providing something that's unique. They're providing something that the attorneys have not seen before, and they're in the front of the bell curve, right? They're very good at it. And if they're not good at it, they know they need to get help. I mean, I've spent probably $15,000 or $20,000 in the last 7 years just on speaker training. I'm becoming a better speaker so that when I speak to people or I speak to attorneys or I speak to doctors, I'm a better speaker. I'm better at what I do, right? So again, that's because I want to be in the front of the bell curve. I think when I go and do an attorney presentation, I think there's probably no one as good or very few as good as I am in front of a law office or in front of lawyers. I'm very confident. If I go out and I want to talk about spinal injuries to hospital administrators, I don't think there's anybody better. If I want to go out and talk to orthopedic surgeons, I don't think there's anybody better, right? I'm really, really good at it. Now, it took me a long time because I was mediocre and average. But since I'm really good at it, and I know that sounds like I'm bragging, but I am. I'm really good at it. I've got lots of testimonials. 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, I had a doctor from New Jersey come on, brought on a top neurosurgeon, top of the line neurosurgeon, to talk about spinal injuries and mild traumatic brain injuries or traumatic brain injuries. We'll just say traumatic brain injuries and the cervical injury and how they are associated. It couldn't have went any better. Now, for the doctor that brought him on, he introduced that doctor to Princeton University's top people that are dealing with traumatic brain injuries in athletes, and now they are sending their problem cases to that doctor. Didn't take long. When he talked to him, I think he talked an hour, I talked an hour, he talked an hour, and those were the connections made. But he talked an hour because he's been with me for about a year and a half, listening to what we present, how we present it. And he's also very good himself. So it wasn't like he wasn't good himself, but that's the power. And doctors, I'm going to end with this. you need to start like I did. I used to be, oh my God, I would never spend any money. I met Grant Cardone. I did a lot of training with him, actually, and I still do today. I highly recommend anybody do any training with him. But one of the things he said is you need to pay to get in the room. You need to pay to get in the room. And I thought, pay to get in the room, Jesus, $25,000 to get in this room. It's $20,000, it's $10,000 to get in this room. The reason why you need to pay to get in the room is the connections, is the people that you meet and the connections that you make. Those connections can change your life permanently and quickly. So, one good attorney referral relationship can change your clinic. 10 can change your whole life, your whole career. It can, you can skyrocket. So, if you're not good at something, you need to get good at it if you want to. Nobody needs to do anything. You can sit back and you can be calm and you can be comfortable and everything else. But if you want to gain, so for me, I had to get over spending money. I had to get over being tight. Like today, I'm good. I calculate it has to be something good that I spend on, but I don't have any problem spending money on training, on something that's going to improve my people, myself, my company. I don't have any problem with that at all. I will spend on that, no problem. My people today can come to me and say, hey, I've got this program. I think I'd like to take it. I think it would enhance my job. I'm in. And a $5,000 or $6,000 bill is not a lot of money to me today. But if I went back, even say 15 years ago, it was, right? So a lot has changed. So the bottom line is, the back of the bell curve, they complain. The middle, they self-invalidate, and the best, they train. I hope you got something out of this. Doctors, if you're interested in our program, just go to smartinjurydoctors.com, go to our website, set up a time with me. I'll explain it. If you just hit the button, it takes you right into my schedule, and you can get in. You can take a look. I always appreciate your time and attention that you spend listening to these podcasts. I hope you gain something from this. I'm doing this one right after Thanksgiving. We're coming into Christmas, so have a happy holidays. And I look forward to presenting more material to you on the next podcast.
You've been listening to the Smart Injury Doctors Podcast, the #1 audio production show for professionals in the U.S. injury market that want to deliver better injury services to the patients, clients, or insureds they serve. If you like what you heard today, please leave us a review and don't forget to join us on our next program.